I've waited what feels like my whole life for real Ghostbuster figures like these. And with that much anticipation, the odds of being let down were huge. But I think Mondo may have made the best toon-based 6-inch scale figures I've ever had my hands on. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but I'm going to explain how Mondo's approach to sculpting, articulation, paint, accessories, and packaging, particularly the Deluxe set, make these Mondo Real Ghostbusters Peter Venkman sets worth every bit of their hefty price tag. Do you think I'm going to be wrong with that conclusion? Keep watching to find out. The Real Ghostbusters cartoon that ran from 1986 to 1991 was a favorite for a lot of kids that grew up in the 80s into the 90s. And it's kind of unique in that while it is absolutely inspired by the 1984 film, it kind of did its own thing and really expanded the Ghostbusters universe in a way that was really compelling and made for really good TV, especially for kids. And like a lot of cartoons in the 80s, it had a toy line made by Kenner to allow kids to have action figures of those characters they love seeing on TV. But aside from these first series figures, a couple of the vehicles, Stay Puft, Slimer, they really didn't have a lot of synergy between the cartoon show and the toy line. You can say that was part of its charm. There's a lot of Kenner ghosts that I absolutely love that were never in the show, but there were a lot of ghosts in the show that never made it into toy form, and that has always drove me insane. And I know the same is true for a lot of other Real Ghostbusters fans. The fact that we haven't got a proper Samhain, Boogeyman, Sandman, the People Busters. These are awesome characters that were brought to life in the animated series that we haven't got in action figure form. That is until Mondo sculptor Alex Brewer took it on himself to do some fan concept art for Real Ghostbusters action figures. And while these weren't officially licensed designs or really indicative of a real toy line that was happening, the excitement that got generated from those concepts made his employer want to take a chance and make Real Ghostbusters figures that had the level of detail and accuracy that could be afforded them in the modern toy era. And over a year and a half later, we are at the point where that vision has become realized with the regular and deluxe releases of the Peter Venkman sets. I want to thank Mondo for sending me these sets free to review and share with all of you. I know this set has been delayed until August, but I do think it's important to see how this one turned out as we look to put a lot more money into future releases like Winston and Ray. All right, let's talk about the packaging. The regular release of Peter Venkman with Slimer in this rectangular kind of shoebox shape that has the deco of the famous ghost trap. I think it looks really, really good. And, you know, it kind of gives you a sense of quality with that $101 price tag. When you open up those windows, you have a view to the Peter Venkman and Slimer. It is kind of like a Hot Toy or other Mondo premium toys if you have any of their 12-inch figures. There's a lot of, you know, paper and stuff like that to protect the paint from rubbing on the plastic. So if you're a mint in box collector, I don't know if this is necessarily a very compelling view, but for people that love to open boxes like myself, it's a really nice presentation. You've got magnetic clasps here. It looks really, really good. So even if you didn't get the deluxe set, you're getting a fairly premium unboxing experience. The packaging that I really love is the deluxe Peter Venkman and Samhain set. Mainly because, one, it's beautiful art. Of the front of the Ghostbusters firehouse. So Jordan Christensen, who did the design, and Brett Parson, who did the art, it just looks really, really good. It looks so good that, you know, this could be a nice background for your figures because it looks, you know, relatively in scale with your Real Ghostbusters. Maybe a touch big, but, you know, say you have an Ecto 1, or maybe they make an Ecto 1, and you have all of your figures in front of this box. I think it look really, really nice. So I love the front of this box. I kind of wish they, like each release, they would do like another section of the firehouse. So once it's all completed, you get a full firehouse. I asked if that was the plan to the Mondo crew, and they said no. But I don't know, maybe they should not rule that one out. I think it'd be kind of cool to eventually all your boxes make a complete firehouse, but that's just me. And then on the inside, you have the inside of the firehouse. And while you can't really see it behind this plastic here, if you take it out, it looks really, really good. And then you have the inside of the doors here. And usually I don't keep packaging. I don't care. I don't display packaging. But this one is one of the rare exceptions that I would make. as I complete my Real Ghostbusters collection, they're all going to be standing in front of this firehouse facade. That is until maybe, hopefully, Mondo makes a firehouse for us to have our figures go inside and stand in front of. But until then, this will be a nice stand-in. All right, let's talk about the sculpting. It's incredible. Alex Brewer has been a sculptor for Mondo for a little bit, and he's done a lot of different animated series action figures for X-Men, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man. And so he has this knack for taking two-dimensional characters and then translating them into 3 dimensions in a really compelling way. And I'm happy to say, in hand, he has done just that with the Peter Venkman, Samhain, and Slimer figures. Honestly, when you see concept art or renders, sometimes you can be like, oh, that looks really cool, again, in 2 dimensions, but once you get it in hand, maybe it doesn't look as good. But I can safely say, looking at this Peter Venkman figure, everything about it, the way his flight suit kind of just sits over his body, the folds and the little creases in the flight suit are there, but they aren't like over pronounced. They're just subtle enough to make it feel like that animated cell come to life in 3 dimensions. Even the hair, there's like movement to the hair, but there's not fine strands. The face looks like Peter Venkman from the animated series. The earlier versions, not the more Dave Coulier look, more of the Lorenzo music look. Even on the Proton pack, all of the details, it just looks like the animated show come to life. This is not the first 6-inch toy to do that. I think the NECA Toon Turtles line is probably the biggest and most successful version of that. But there's just something about the way he sculpted this figure to account for the articulation that it needs without letting that break up the silhouette of this figure. It just looks so good. Like, honestly, Peter is perfect. I really don't have too many nitpicks about this sculpt of the Peter figure. In my mind, the most perfect version in my mind, it's not any better than what Alex was able to pull off with this Peter. Moving on to the Slimer figure, again, it looks like Slimer. We've had a lot of different takes on Slimer, and some goods, a lot not so good. But shockingly, we never got an actual like 2-scale Slimer figure in the vintage Kenner line. It was always way too big. And so what's so great about this set is Slimer scales well with your Peter Venkman. He, again, looks like the Slimer you see on the show, and that's really special. Another thing that I really like that Alex shared in the Toy Geeks podcast is that he scaled this Slimer to kind of work with your Kenner figures if you want to, or any other figure. So if you've been longing for a accurately scaled Slimer figure to go maybe with your Kenner Real Ghostbusters, it kind of works. You know, maybe a little bit bigger, but still better than what Kenner gave us back in the 80s. And then the same for the Samhain. Maybe he's way too big, but his size varies in the animated show. So you can even have, this Samhain, pair with your vintage Kenner figure if you want to. And then the Samhain is just beautiful. The different portrait sets you get with his kind of angry face, his kind of menacing smile face, and then probably his more iconic kind of laughing jack-o'-lantern face. They all look really good. Again, I have watched the animated series. I've watched When Halloween Was Forever like 100 times. It's not the best animation in that episode, but really this, in my mind, is how Samhain should look in 3 dimensions without really any nitpicky notes from a sculpting standpoint in this figure. It is perfect. Next up, let's talk about the articulation. I know some people are concerned maybe that these figures have some limited articulation, but I think every bit of articulation on here is pitch perfect to the character that they're trying to translate in 3-dimensional form. That is, you don't have really any ugly joints that take away from any of the lines of the sculpt of this figure. The knee joints, like, they cover up really well. And the use of the elbow guards to allow a lot of movement. It's not a double jointed elbow, but it looks good, and I can get it into the positions that I need this figure to get into. The wrists are really movable. There's so much dynamic range to the wrist, which you need for a figure like this that needs to hold a Neutrona wand to blast the ghost. It's got butterfly shoulder joints, again, to get us into those positions that we need to kind of get it in that ghost busting pose. It does not have an ab crunch or ab articulation, but honestly, I'm fine with that, because I can still get a pretty decent range of motion at the waist. And again, I'm not breaking up the sculpt at all, which again is what I want for an animated figure. I picked up the latest Shredder figure from NECA and kind of put it through its paces side by side to this Peter Venkman figure. And while this one might have some more articulation points, there's not too much that this figure can pose that this one can't. In fact, this one can get into better positions. It can get into a fully seated position, which is something that's important because we know that, hopefully eventually we'll be able to sit this guy in an Ecto-1 vehicle, whether it's the Hasbro HasLab one, or maybe hopefully Mondo gets to an animated Ecto-1 or an Ecto-2 or anything that might want your figure to sit in a seated position. Now, we know action figures, especially modern articulated action figures, getting it into a proper seated position rarely happens. You kind of have it in this weird kind of slouching position, but this one gets into that seated position. The ankle rockers, the range of movement on the legs so that you can kind of get into a power stance to do your Neutrona blast. It has everything. And then the flow of all the articulation points on the Peter, on the Samhain, just flow so nicely. I don't have to fight any of the articulation to get it into the position that I want it to. So does it have as many articulation points as maybe some other action figures? No, but it gets into all the positions that I need it to, and it doesn't fight me. It's actually an enjoyable posing experience. I don't feel like I have to kind of force it, kind of mold it like clay to get in the position that I want it to. The articulation is smooth, it sets, it's not wobbly, and it's just really, really high quality. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to translate the feel of that from this camera to you at home, but once you get this in hand and get a feel for it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Where these figures really shine is in the paint. The paint is incredible. I know that the Toon Ninja Turtle figures from NECA are like $35, right? I get that. But the quality is at such a higher level from what we've come to expect in the NECA Toon Turtles line that it just makes that extra expense, which again, I know it's an extra expense, but I don't mind spending the money if I feel like the quality is there. And really, the paint is incredible. Like every single detail is painted like pitch perfect. You would think there might be some slop here and there, but really I haven't found any glaring sloppy paint issues on my Peter, on my Samhain, or on my Slimer. And then something else that Alex pointed out when he was on the Toy Geeks podcast is that there is a slight shading to it, right? I'm not a fan of cell shading on Toon style action figures, but somehow they've had this light touch of shading throughout the figures. You probably see it the most on Samhain, that it just kind of gives it this ability to capture the shadows of whatever lighting you're putting these figures in. So if you're a toy photographer, this light shading just, again, makes it really stand out on a shelf. And while I think NECA does a really solid job with their Toon figures and kind of giving us that animated cell look, it doesn't even compare to what Mondo has pulled off with this set. Mark Bristow did the paint on these figures, and it's a double slam dunk. You have the articulation and design and concept from Alex Brewer, which is about pitch perfect on every single detail. And you have Mark Bristow coming in and putting paint on this figure that, no joke, is some of the best paint I have seen on a 6-inch action figure before. Moving on to those very well painted accessories. This is everything you get with the regular release. You got the Peter Venkman figure, the alternate head sculpt. You got the Neutrona blast that attached to the Neutrona wand that is on the Proton pack. You've got the gloved hands, which have these little extra attachments to make the glove go up the arm. You've got his figure stand. You've got your Slimer action figure with his slime stand. You've got a great ghost trap accessory that has 2 attachments to hook up to it, just the trap being closed, and then you've got the Samhain being sucked into the trap that locks into there as well. So that's the regular release, and if we pull out just a little bit, we'll keep adding on here. So if we go to the deluxe set, we've got the Samhain figure, and then we've got multiple portraits for him. So we've got 2 extra portraits, one a smiley face, kind of angry face with the yellow eyes, and then you got an extra set of emotive hands. And then with the deluxe set, you also get these cardboard cutouts to add even more ghosts to your display. So you got this kind of eyeball bat guy, this submarine dude, and then you've got some Kenner figures that also showed up in the series that are a little bit different than the Kenner figures. So you got a Bug-Eye Ghost that is red, and then you got the Fearsome Flush. So these are great add-ons, give you a whole bunch to display if you go for the deluxe set. Diving a little bit deeper on the accessories, I love how easy it is to swap out the heads on these figures. It's super quick and easy. Same is true for the hands. So if I'm doing the gloved hands here, just put on that kind of sleeve of the glove, a little bit extra length on the peg right here. That pops right in, and kind of quick and easily swap out the non-glove to the gloved hand look if that's what you're going for. And really, it doesn't fight me at all. It works really, really well. And then the Proton Pack has two little plugins right here. So you just go over the top of his head, go to the back, and then they kind of fit into these little slots right here. Luckily, there's a decent amount of rigidity there, so it's not too much of a pain in the neck to get in there. It's an area that I was a little worried about kind of being a pain, but it goes in pretty well, and doesn't pop out all the time. So that's a nice design there for the Proton Pack accessory. And same thing for the head sculpts on the Samhain. Again, easily pops on and off without any difficulty. Same for the hands, they pop on and off. No need to take a blow dryer to this thing. It works really, really easily, which again, you're paying a premium for these figures, and the premium quality is felt there on it. And then the trap accessory I think is really brilliant. So it'll basically come packaged like this. I did an extra little loop right here, and if you kind of just bend it down to where the loop is right underneath, and then if you put in the non-Samhain close trap piece, and then right on that Proton Pack you have two hooks. So you hook this top part in right here, and then the loop kind of just goes on this right here, and then now you've got your trap set up on your Proton Pack just like the show. Another great part of this trap that I really love is that the engineering for the Samhain accessory, or the Samhain being trapped accessory, it slides right in, right? But you would think this would throw off the balance of the trap when it's standing up. But no, it stands up just fine. And it even has kind of the bounce test. So, I don't know how much engineering went into it to make it be really well balanced like that, but I think they did a really good job on letting you have this accessory in here not actually throw off the balance, so you can kind of display if you're doing toy photography or having it in your display like this, him trapping Samhain. I think it's really well engineered and works great. And the same is true for the Neutrano wand. It clips in just like it does in the TV show. I was a little worried this was too thin, like it would get easily broken or stressed, but it attaches really well. There's only one way it can attach because it has this little extra section here on the Neutrano wand. So it just clicks in there like that. It looks really good. Displays nice, and then passes the shake test. It's locked in there. No flopping around. And then the Neutrona Blast pops in just like that, and it holds really well. Now, I wouldn't display it long term, even though this is a really firm, kind of rigid plastic for the Neutrona wand, I'd be worried over time if this would start to make it sag. But just straight out of the box, I think it displays really well and works really well. And having the Neutrona wand be show accurate but still be able to attach the Neutrona beam to it well, I think is a really, really nice feature add there. The only accessory that I feel is missing from this set is one more set of hands. I know I complain a lot about those Super 7 figures that have 87 hands. This is a case where I think maybe another set of kind of Neutrona wand holding hands would have been useful, especially Peter Venkman, just because, a lot of times he's talking and he's using his hands to kind of emphasize what he's talking about. He's a New Yorker, and I feel like he could have done well with maybe a pointing hand or maybe an open hand. There may have been a reason that wasn't budgetary on why we didn't get extra hands with this figure, but I really do think this thing could have used at least one extra set of expressive hands. Samhain doesn't have that issue. He has plenty of expressive hands. You can kind of get him into a lot of the iconic poses from his episodes in The Real Ghostbusters, and the fact that you're getting these 3 heads, which again are just straight out of scenes from his episodes. There's really nothing that I feel is missing from the Samhain. Now, Slimer is kind of in this happy expression with just, his hands and arms that come with him. Could he have used a different faceplate? Maybe, but that would have broken up the sculpt. So maybe we'll get other Slimers in the future. I don't feel like I'm missing anything with this Slimer. So really, the only accessory I would have liked to have had added is those expressive hands for Peter. All right, regular versus deluxe. Regular is $101, deluxe is $202. Which one should you go for? For me, that extra $100 for the Samhain figure is worth it because I've wanted a Samhain figure forever. The packaging is awesome. Like, it gives you a firehouse facade to put your figures in front of. That's really neat. I think that's cooler than the trap look of the regular box. That being said, if you just need the 4 Ghostbuster figures, then the regular is the way to go. You still get companion ghosts, you still get a ton of accessories with it, and it's $100 cheaper than the deluxe set. So it's really up to you what you're looking for to decide on what you want to move forward with. For me, I need Samhain, I need Boogeyman, I need Sandman, right? So I'm going to go all in for the deluxe sets. So really, it's kind of choose your own adventure on what you think you should get between the regular or the deluxe sets. And that takes me to my final thoughts. Like I said at the top of this episode, this thing could have easily disappointed, right? I mean, you're taking nearly 40 years of anticipation. How often has something like that been met with not only meeting expectations, but maybe exceeding expectations? And that's how I feel about these Mondo, Peter Venkman regular and deluxe sets. If you have been dreaming of having a real Ghostbusters action figure that looks like it jumped right out of the screen of the classic animated show, this is a dream come true. Honestly, it is expensive, and I get it, and if it's too much, totally understand, but this is special. These are art. And I'm 100% in for all of the future releases in Mondo's Real Ghostbusters toy line. So was my bold take at the beginning of this episode right or wrong? Let me know down in the comments.